Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? This is Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima. I'm in Dallas. My name is Brenda. I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5SC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. 1. General announcements. 2. Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events. 3. National Space Society events. 4. Discussion topic of the evening. 5. What's up? 6. Space exploration and space history. 7. Constellation of the week. 8. Space launches of the week. 9. Recent astronomical discoveries. 10. Visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. 11. Astronomical Q&A. And 12. 73 round. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So we're going to start with low power and short time check-ins. Please come now with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from. Go ahead.
Kilo 5, Mike, Charlie Delta, Cody in Dallas, low power. Kilo Charlie 5, Mike, Papa Oscar, Jamie, mobile, short time, downtown Dallas.
Hey, we have 2 check-ins. Kilo 5, Mike, Charlie Delta, Cody, and Kilo Charlie 5, Mike, Papa Oscar, Jamie. Welcome to you both. Now let's take regular check-ins.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu Bravo Lima, Bill, Palm Springs.
November 5, Bravo Bravo. Bill in Irving.
This is Kilo 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Carrollton.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
Kilo India 5, Sierra Zulu Bravo, Max in Royce City.
Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert Richardson.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, Milky Way, more specifically, Mesquite.
I'm going to need a couple of fills. Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu Bravo Lima, Bill. And November 5, Bravo Bravo, Bill. And James, I got Victor Lima is the last part. I missed the first part.
Kilo 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James.
Thank you. Kilo 5, Whiskey, Victor Lima. James, thank you. Then NT5, TM Tony. And then Max, I missed. Just come back with your whole call. I missed too much of it.
Kilo India 5, Sierra Zulu Bravo, Max, Royce City.
Thank you. Kilo India 5, Sierra Zulu Bravo. Welcome to the net, Max. And Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert. And Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz. Let's do some echo links. Please come now. This is Kilo 5, Kilo, Tango X-Ray, Kelly in Point. Okay, we have Kilo 5, Kilo Tango X-Ray, Kelly. Okay, let's do check-ins from any mode, please.
This is November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, play in the seat.
Whiskey 5, Bacon Lotus Tomato, W5 BLT, Bill.
November 8, Whiskey Romeo, N8WWR, Romy, Grapevine.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth.
we have November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay. Whiskey 5, Bacon, Lettuce, Tomato, Bill. November 8, Whiskey, Romeo, Romy. And November Victor, Foxtrot, no, November 5, Foxtrot, Victor, Virginia. Do we have any others? Well, let's go ahead and move on. We'll get some more check-ins shortly. So, do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These could be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike. Go ahead, Tony.
Thank you, Brett. I'd like to remind everybody that we have a lecture and lab coming up next weekend. We'll be building a 2-meter fox hunting antenna for only $15. That's next Saturday morning at 10 a.m. at the Dallas Medical Center in the 3rd floor community room of the main hospital building. More details at w5fc.org. And although I might be sleepy and you might be sleepy too, this is still not the last night of the evening. We have the Afterglow movie discussion coming up at about 10:30, plus or minus a few minutes. Tonight's movie is Beginning of the End from 1957. There is an MST3K version out there if you still have time to finish the movie that way. And finally, don't forget we have 2 nets coming up tomorrow, the Meeting on the Air and the Racy's Training Net. Meeting on the Air is right here at 7. The Racy's Training Net is on the repeater at 8. Have a great night, NT5TM.
Thanks, Tony. Okay, other announcements. The AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 2 nets available to Dallas residents. On Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central, you'll need Echolink installed and be registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available to their website. It's amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston. Dallas AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.88 megahertz, PL 110.9 megahertz, Tuesdays. Tom, N5HYP, is net control. All are welcome to check in. First Tuesday of the month is the DARC Club night, so no AMSAT East that night. Dallas AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.14 megahertz, PL 110.9 megahertz, positive offset. So the DARC hosted nets, we have the first week, Ham Fixins Net. Second week, MCOM 101, that's Emergency Cooperations. Third week, Ham Fixins Net, a second helping of cooking. Fourth week, GeekNet, Geek Beyond Ham Radio. Fifth week, Surprise Net. If we told you what it is, it wouldn't be a surprise. On-air participation is encouraged. Tuesdays, AMSAT East, 8 p.m., Q&As, info and news for amateur satellites. Fridays, CERT City Simulation, 8 p.m. Learn about emergency radio communications via CERT-trained amateur radio operators. Melissa, KF5GRH, is usually the net control. Visit the most disaster-prone city in the universe every Friday. CERT City, all are welcome. Then on Saturdays, we have TechNet at between 7 and 8 p.m., and of course, Skynet. First and third Sundays, Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air. Then every day, we have the ARRL Net, National Training System Training Net, every night at 6:30 p.m. Central. All are welcome to check in to any or all of those nets. Okay, tonight's Afterglow Net synopsis. I'm going to call on KE5ICX, Tom, to read this since he wrote it. Are you there, Tom?
Oh, yes, Miss Brenda, and Tony is right. This will be built like there was in a table jacket and enjoyed the station, big pocket, put a stethoscope in. He also had a radiation obsession. He radiated his toast, his morning, grilled cheese sandwich at lunch, and his meatloaf at dinner time. But it didn't end there. Wainwright also irradiated vegetables, small pets, and breakfast cereals as well. There was nothing he wouldn't irradiate. That man was a white coat Democrat with Democrat ambition. But it would all catch up with him eventually. A colony of locusts were growing angry over the whole thing. Wasn't all. They were also just plain growing, and they were hungry to dispose of the good doctor. Tonight, Ruby, Peter Graves, tonight, beginning of the end, from 1958 at 10:30 p.m. He did.
Thank you. Did you also mention, besides giant locusts, we might have giant ants, giant rabbits, a giant woman, and a giant mantis, all making cameo appearances. Okay, you can keep up with all the ARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, w5fc.org. Next up, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. I'm going to call on Chaz, KF5JHA, to give us an update on that. Go ahead, Chaz.
Thank you, Brenda. Good evening, everyone. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on Friday, March the 22nd. That's in 6 days. And the meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and also held on Zoom. The featured speaker is going to be Gary Carter and other task members talking about telescopes and eyepieces. Saturday night public observing sessions continue. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night, so there could be an opportunity to report from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing stations. But today, on the third Saturday, the stargazing would have been held at Cedar Hill, but because of the weather, of course, that did not happen. So you can check the TASS website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. And back to you, Brenda. This is KF5JHA. I'm sorry, I'm looking at Echo Link and repeating somebody else's call sign.
Yeah, we all do that sometimes. Okay, National Space Society events and activities. I'm going to call on Bill and 5 Bravo Bravo to please give us some National Space Society news. Go ahead, Bill.
Thank you, Brenda. This is N5BB. I am to be the membership director for the North Texas section of the National Space Society. And our normal meeting dates are on the second Sunday afternoon of each month. So our last meeting was this last Sunday, the 10th of March, where our speaker was a NASA Solar System Ambassador, and he spoke about the NASA Commercial Lunar Payload Service, CLIPS, which is really neat, with things happening right now this year on that program, missions. Our next meeting is going to be in April, on April the 14th, the second Sunday in April, and I don't yet know the meeting topic. Our meetings are at Spring Creek Barbecue in Irving on the southwest corner of Beltline and Highway 183, and they start at 3:30 p.m. We also have a social event every month, and that's something that I kind of help sponsor. It's on the last Friday afternoon of each month. And so we call this Space Rendezvous. Anybody can participate. You do not have to be a member to attend. So our next space rendezvous will be on Friday, March the 29th, at Cheddar's Restaurant in Irving at 6 p.m. Cheddar's Restaurant is on Highway 635 on the eastbound, that's the south frontage road of Highway 635, between MacArthur and Bush Turnpike. Again, that's Space Rendezvous. Anybody can attend. Social event at Cheddar's Restaurant in Irving on Friday afternoon or early evening, March the 29th, 6 p.m. There are other events coming up that we will be participating in that have to do with the eclipse, but that's going to be weeks in advance. And there's so many events, and there more of them are popping up, that I could be about 8 places at once if I wanted to be with at least 4 organizations. So, that's all I got. In fact, if you have any questions about National Space Society, please send me an email at n5bb@arrl.net or space@byrom.net, space@byrom.net. That's it. Thanks, N5BB.
Thank you, Bill. This is WB5OZL. Do we have any more check-ins now?
Kilo India 5, Juliet Charlie Mike, Thomas, and Euless.
All right, well, we picked up Kilo India 5, Juliet Charlie Mike, Thomas. Welcome to the net. All right, we're going to move into our feature presentation. This is entitled Night Shining Cloud Mission Ends. It yields high science results for NASA. The story is written by Mara Johnson-Grow. So after 16 years studying Earth's highest clouds for the benefit of humanity, polar mesospheric clouds from its orbit, some 350 miles above the ground, NASA's Astronomy of Ice in the Mesosphere, or AIM, mission has come to an end. Initially slated for a 2-year mission, AIM was extended times due to its high science return. While AIM has faced hurdles over the years, from software hiccups to hardware issues, an incredibly dedicated team kept the spacecraft running for much longer than anyone could have anticipated. On March 13, 2023, the spacecraft's battery failed following several years of declining performance. Multiple attempts to maintain power to the spacecraft were made, but no further data could be collected, so the mission has now ended. AIM was dedicated to studying the atmospheric region that borders between our atmosphere and space, said AIM mission scientist Diego Jancis of NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland. AIM's help understanding this region has been of critical importance to providing insights on how the lower atmosphere affects space weather. Known as night shining or noctilucent clouds, they are seen at twilight in the summer months, typically at high latitudes near the north and south poles. Before the mission, scientists knew these types of clouds varied with latitude, season, and solar activity, but didn't know why. This mission was launched to understand the variations and study why the clouds form and their links to climate change by measuring the thermal, chemical, and other properties of the environment in which the clouds form. NASA's AIM has been an investigator and professor at Virginia Tech. It has answered core questions that have helped us understand how noctilucent clouds and atmospheric gravity waves vary over time and location. Over the years, AIM has made many big discoveries. Data from the mission has thus far led to nearly 400 peer-reviewed publications. This includes findings of how these clouds can be created by meteor smoke and water vapor from rocket exhaust, how events near Earth's surface can trigger changes in the clouds, and how ice high in the atmosphere can cause mysterious radar echoes, which are created in certain regions of the atmosphere during the summer. As the mission progressed, scientists realized AIM's data could also be used to study undulations in the air called atmospheric gravity waves. These waves transfer momentum and energy as they travel through the atmosphere. They link weather events at Earth's surface with atmospheric disturbances that occur far away from the initial event, including the uppermost part of the atmosphere, where they can disrupt GPS signals. We've had many difficulties, but we've still gotten an incredible amount of data from AIM because of our really excellent, heroic, and hardworking team that comes through every time, Bailey said. AIM's first hurdles started only months after launch in 2007, when the telecommunication receiver started to malfunction intermittently. With the clever use of radio signals, the team was able to reprogram the spacecraft to communicate in Morse code, which allowed it to maintain communications even after the receiver stopped working. While communications with the spacecraft became thousands of times slower than planned, AIM was still able to make its measurements and send home 99% of the data it collected. Shortly thereafter, the spacecraft again encountered a mission-threatening issue. The spacecraft repeatedly sent itself into safe mode, which effectively shut down the spacecraft and required a time-consuming series of tasks to reboot. But again, the engineers were able to unload new software to the spacecraft to circumvent the issue and keep AIM functional. The new software patch has prevented over 1,000 such incidents on the spacecraft since. In 2019, AIM's battery started to decline, but through great effort and ingenuity, the mission operations team maintained the battery power, enabling the spacecraft to continue returning data. In early 2023, the battery experienced a significant drop-off in performance, which meant the spacecraft could only receive commands or collect data. Unfortunately, this hardware issue was not one that could be repaired remotely, and the satellite finally ceased collecting data in March 2023. We're saddened to see AIM reach the end of its lifetime, but it's been amazing how long it has lasted, Bailey said. It's given us more data and insight into noctilucent clouds and atmospheric gravity waves than we could ever have hoped for. Though the spacecraft has seen its last night shining clouds, scientists will continue to study AIM's data for years to come. As for the spacecraft itself, it will slowly lose orbital height and burn up upon atmospheric re-entry in 2026. There are still gigabytes upon gigabytes of AIM data to study, said Coral Randall, AIM Deputy Principal Investigator and Senior Research Scientist at the Laboratory for Atmospheric and Space Physics in Boulder, Colorado. And as our models and computational capabilities continue to improve, people will make many more discoveries using the AIM datasets. All right, next up we have Chaz, KF5JHA, with What's Up? Go ahead, Chaz.
Thank you, Brenda. Good evening, everyone, once again. I just want to let you know we do have a NASA Solar System Ambassador that's on Skynet almost every week. I know there's a different one that's speaking at the National Space Society, but the one and only Kelly, Mayor of Kelly, Texas. Well, she's in Point, Texas. She is a NASA Solar System Ambassador. Oh, and something else. Neil deGrasse Tyson will be at the Cotton Bowl during the eclipse. Evidently, they've arranged this a while back, so I think the event is free, but the parking, of course, who knows? Could be $1 million a car. I don't know. Well, yeah, this is Chaz, KF5JHA. We call this segment of Skynet What's Up because it's all about what's going on astronomically over the next couple of weeks and beyond. That was slide number two. Slide number 3, please, slide master. That would be Tom. Let's look at the current evening sky. Well, right now it's cloudy. That would be the end of that. But if it were clear, you could face to the southwest this evening in the sky, and Orion the Hunter can be found by looking for 3 stars of equal brightness in a straight line and evenly spaced. This is the belt of Orion the Hunter. There are 2 bright stars above the belt that represent Orion's shoulders. The brighter one to the left is Betelgeuse. The other one to the right is Bellatrix. The 2 bright stars below Orion's belt form Orion's knees. The one on the left is Scythe. The one on the right is Rigel. You've heard of Rigel before in Star Trek episodes, I'm sure. Slide Master, slide number 4. Now, using Orion's belt and drawing down and to the left, you run into the brightest star in the sky other than the sun. It's called Sirius. Yeah, I'm serious. No, I'm not. That's the reason why it's called Sirius. But Sirius is a doggone good star. Okay, that's because it's called the Dog Star, because Sirius is the brightest star in the constellation of the Big Dog, which is Canis Major. Slide Master, slide number 5. If you go back to Orion's belt and draw a line from the belt stars up and to the right, you should run into the brightest star in Taurus the Bull, called Aldebaran. And keep on going in a straight line just a bit more, and you should run to a little cluster of faint stars called the Pleiades. Actually, the moon was right next to the Pleiades just a couple of nights ago, but it was kind of cloudy, so it was hard to see from here. Aldebaran's stellar classification is K53. Betelgeuse's classification is an M11. What are these classifications? Slide Master, slide number 6. Star classifications are by temperature and luminosity. The temperature ranges are actually letters. The hottest stars are type O, and the coolest stars are M. The types from hottest to coolest are O, B, A, F, G, K, and M. Remember the order by using a mnemonic called, and in quotation marks, O, B, A, fine girl, kiss me. The hottest stars, type O, are more than 30,000 degrees Kelvin. The B-type stars are between 10,000 and 30,000 degrees Kelvin. The A-type stars are between 7,500 and 10,000 degrees Kelvin. The F stars are between 6,000 and 7,500 degrees Kelvin. G-type stars, that's like our sun, are between 5,200 and 6,000 degrees Kelvin. Type K stars are between 3,700 and 5,200 degrees Kelvin. And M stars are less than 3,700 degrees. There are 10 subcategories when each one of the types, a type 09 and a type B0, are next to each other in the scale. We call this the, we've talked about her in the past Skynets, and I'm sure we'll talk about her more again in future Skynets. Slide Master, slide number 7, please. Luminosity classifications of stars are rated in Roman numerals 0 through BII, which is 7. Main sequence stars, like our sun, are rated as a V, which is also known as 5. Hypergiants are rated as 0, while white dwarfs are rated as VII, which is 7. This system of luminosity classification is called the Morgan-Canaan system. While I attended the Ohio State University, Dr. Canaan was a professor emeritus, meaning that he was retired, but he still had an office and came in a couple of times a week to his office. I get to see him occasionally in the astronomy department. I remember that graduate students would hand him a glass plate containing the spectra of a star, but oriented backwards to try to fool Dr. Canaan. Dr. Canaan would immediately reorient the glass plate, hand it back to the graduate student, and give them the exact classification of the star, and he was always right. The Morgan-Canaan classification system of our sun is a G2-5. In other words, G2, letter B, star. Slide Master, slide number 8. Today, on March the 16th, the moon is at first quarter phase, if you can see it through the clouds. On March the 23rd, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth, at a distance of 406,294 kilometers. The moon will be full on March the 25th, and there will be an eclipse of the moon. More about that eclipse a little bit later. On April the 1st, the moon phase will be third quarter. On April the 1st, the moon is also at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is at the closest point to the Earth at a distance of 358,850 kilometers. On April the 8th is new moon, and there's going to be a total solar eclipse for us here in North Texas, and more on that a little bit later. Slide Master, slide number 9. On March the 16th, oh wait, that's today, there's a conjunction of the minor planet Juno in the southwestern evening sky and the moon. Yeah, we're not going to see that with the clouds. Slide Master, slide number 10, please. On March the 20th is the moment of the vernal equinox and the beginning of spring at 3:50 p.m. Central Daylight Time for the Northern Hemisphere. On this day, we have 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of darkness everywhere on the surface of the Earth, and the sun rises directly east and sets directly west everywhere on the Earth. Interesting. Slide Master, slide number 11. On March 21st, the conjunction of Venus and Saturn will be happening in the southeastern morning sky. Strong twilight will be happening, so you'll need binoculars to find the planet Saturn. Venus I've still been able to see in the morning twilight by itself. Slide Master, slide number 12. On March the 22nd, there's a conjunction of the moon and the minor planet Juno in the eastern evening sky. Slide Master, slide number 13, please. Now, I've already mentioned this, but on March the 24th, 25th, there's going to be a penumbral eclipse of the moon. The Earth's shadow has two different parts, a darker part called the umbra and a lighter part called the penumbra. Around 96% of the moon will go into the penumbra during this eclipse, and the moon's brightness will only be slightly dimmed. The eclipse begins at 11:53 p.m. Central Daylight Time. That's on March the 24th. At 2:14 a.m. on March the 25th, there will be an eclipse maximum, and again, 96% of the moon will be inside the penumbra. At 4:32 a.m. Central Daylight Time, that's on March 25th, the eclipse ends when the moon leaves the penumbra. And again, the moon will only be slightly dimmer. You might be able to see one side of the moon a little bit darker, but it's kind of hard to see penumbral eclipses. Slide Master, slide number 14, please. On March 26th, there's a conjunction of the moon and the bright star Spica in the morning sky. Slide Master, slide number 15. On March the 30th, there's a conjunction of the moon and the bright star Antares in the early morning sky as well. Slide Master, slide number 16. Now, on April the 7th, there is a conjunction of the moon and Venus in the eastern morning sky, and there's an occultation of Venus by the moon during that daytime on on April the 7th. An occultation occurs when the moon moves in between the planet Venus and the Earth, which blocks the planet Venus from our view. You may be able to observe this event with just your two eyes, but binoculars will be very helpful. Be careful not to look at the sun during the daytime with binoculars. That can hurt you permanently. The disappearance of Venus occurs at 11:17 and 34 seconds a.m. Central Daylight Time, and the reappearance happens at 11:45 and 39 seconds a.m. Central Daylight Time. Now, the picture, if you're looking at the video version of Skynet on YouTube, the picture of Venus next to the moon is one that I took just before the daylight occultation of Venus that I took on December the 7th, the year 2015. It was a fantastic event to see. It was clear. I hope it's clear for that. And remember, we have another solar eclipse coming up in just 30 days. What? Nope, less than 30 days. I've got to update that thing. It's probably about 23 days. Slide Master, slide number 17. A solar eclipse is when the moon is in between the Earth and the sun, and for a few very lucky people on the Earth, blocks some or all of the sun from our field of view. Slide Master, slide number 18. Yes, we have a very exciting thing coming up on April the 8th. That's the total solar eclipse for the sun for us here in North Texas. From the Brookhaven campus to the Dallas College, the sun will be completely blocked out from our view for about 3 minutes and 21 seconds between 1:41 and 1:44 p.m. During that time, called totality, you'll be able to see stars in the sky just as if it were evening twilight. It's not going to completely be dark, but it's going to be pretty dark. The next total solar eclipse visible from North Texas, yes, here, will be on July the 9th, the year 2317. Now, there's going to be another total solar eclipse in the United States, not here in North Texas, but in about 20 years. We'll get to that some other time down the road. So this total solar eclipse here in North Texas is a very big deal because it only happens about once every 300 years here in North Texas. Downtown Dallas hotels have been booked for months, and then around the days of the eclipse, and some of the downtown Dallas streets will be closed that day for an eclipse festival. Traffic's going to be crazy that day. Ennis School District has been closed for that day for the eclipse. So has Waxahachie, Corsicana, I believe 3 systems off to our east. I'm trying to think of the ISDs. Kelly told them to me last week. I'm sorry, I've forgotten about those. But there's all sorts of different schools that are closing that day. It's going to be crazy that day. Yeah, Rains County. Oh, Lone Oak. Yep. Okay, thank you, Kelly. She's posting it on Echolink as I'm reading it. Greenville. Oh, yeah, yeah. Slide Master, slide number 19, please. Oh, and of course Rockwell is going to be closed too, is from my understanding. Do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any of the information I've just given? Or maybe you just have a general astronomy question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill.
This is WV50ZL with a question.
Well, Ms. Net Control, please come now.
Yes, do those eclipse glasses degrade over time or become less safe? I have a pair that's 7 years old. I assume they're still okay, but I just wonder if there's an expiration date. The collection I've gotten since then, I've got a handful of them, will they still be good in 20 years, or should I just toss them out? WB50ZL.
As long as you take care of them, they don't get scratched or hole punched in them, they should be fine. I recommend they be kept in a cool, dry spot so that they will be in good shape for the next eclipse. Yep, so they're good. I'm using some glasses that were bought for the 2017 eclipse right now, and I've been passing them out to friends because they're leftovers. Yeah, Dallas College has purchased several thousand pairs of, not pairs of glasses, but eclipse viewers. They're little rectangular things, a little bit larger than a 3x5 card that you can use, and you don't have to have the proper spacing in your eyes because it's this block, triangular rectangle of material, and it's really cool. You could even use them on your phone to take pictures of the sun. Those will be given out on campuses during the eclipse. So I hope that answered your question. All right, so Slide Master, slide number 20. So as the moon waned a couple weeks ago, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live, at least right now. And until next time, actually, I'll be doing another segment on Skynet in just a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5JHA. Back to our net control. It's all yours.
Thank you, Chaz. Do we have any more check-ins? All right, space exploration is space history. This is alternated between myself and Kelly, K5KTX. Tonight it's my turn, but Tom, K5ICX, is offered to read what I have prepared here, so I don't have to talk all night long. So I'm going to call on him now to go ahead and do that. K5ICX, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Brenda, and thank you for putting all of this together. You had a lion's share of doing about 90% of the presentation tonight, so appreciate that. And this is what Brenda has for us on space exploration news. NASA's Artemis mission progresses with SpaceX Starship testing flight. As part of NASA's Artemis campaign to return humans to the moon for the benefit of all, the agency is working with SpaceX to develop a company Starship Human Landing System, or HLS, which will land astronauts near the South Pole during Artemis 3 and Artemis 4 missions. On March 14th, SpaceX launched the third integrated flight test of its Super Heavy booster and Starship upper stage, an important milestone towards providing NASA with the Starship HLS for the Artemis mission. To complement the 33 Raptor engine fueled by super pools of methane and oxygen powered the Super Heavy booster with Starship stacked on top from the company's Starbase orbital launch pad at 8:25 a.m. Central Daylight Time. Starship using 6 Raptor engine separated from the Super Heavy booster, employing a hot staging technique to fire the engine before separation and employing at approximately 3 minutes into the flight, in accordance with flight plan. This is the third flight test of the integrated Super Heavy Starship system. Next up is Mercury is slammed by gargantuan eruption from the sun's far side, possibly triggering an X-ray aurora. A gigantic fiery eruption around 40 times wider than Earth recently exploded from the sun's hidden far side. The eruption hurled a massive cloud of plasma into space and later smashed into Mercury, scouring the planet's rocky surface and potentially triggering X-ray aurora on the unprotected globe. The eruption was likely triggered by a powerful solar flare, which occurred around 7 p.m. Eastern Time on March 9th. SpaceWeather.com reported NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory, or SDO, spotted a large, partially obscured plasma filament exploding outward from behind the sun's northeast limb. Based on the amount of visible plasma, the eruption likely spanned around 310,000 miles across. SDO data showed that the explosion, which likely left behind a massive canyon of fire on the sun's surface, also released a large coronal mass ejection, MCG, fast-moving cloud of magnetized plasma and radiation that collided with Mercury on March 10th. Next up is The Nightmare is Over. NASA resurrects Veritas mission to Venus. A long overdue mission to Venus is finally back on track after being put on hold due to budgeting and staffing issues at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, or JPL. Veritas, Venus mission in radio science, INSAR, topography, and spectroscopy. Boy, you try and say that. Made its way back to Earth's NASA's budget and is on schedule to launch in 2031, according to the mission members. The mission was originally slated to launch in 2027, but NASA's plan to send the spacecraft to Venus was derailed by the space agency's cut funds to Veritas in its budget request for 2024. This week, the release of NASA's final budget saw an unexpected return of Veritas, granting the mission adequate funds to be able to set a launch date. Next up are birthdays. We have Laurel Clark. She was born on March 10, 1961. SPS 107 was her mission The Illumination Blue, Curtis Brown, born on March 11th, 1966. He flew STS 47, 56, 77, 85, 95, and 103. Patricia Robertson, born on March 12th, 1963. There were no flights. Tragically died in an airplane crash. On March 12th, 1923, Wally Schirra was born. He flew on Mercury Atlas 8, Gemini 6A, and Apollo 7. Gene Cernan was born on March 14, 1934. He flew on Gemini 9A, Gemini 9A, I guess, Apollo 10, and Apollo 17. Frank Borman, born March 14, 1928, flew Gemini 7 and Apollo 8. Michael Singh was born on March 14, 1967. He flew on Soyuz CMA-4 with Expedition 9, Soyuz CMA-13, Expedition 8, STS-134, is destined for the Boeing Starliner number 1, if they forget that thing on the ground. Next is William Matilda Moore. He was born on March 14, 1939. Alan B. born March 15, 1932. Flew on Apollo 12 and Skylab 3. Walt Cunningham was born March 16, 1932, and flew on Apollo 7. Finally, Michael J. Bloomberg was born March 15, 1959. He flew on STS 86, 97, and 2010. This week in space history, on March 13, 1969, Apollo 9 splashed down 55 years ago after completing one of the program's most underrated test missions, the Apollo 9 spacecraft, with astronauts James Divot, David R. Scott, and Russell L. Weigert aboard. Approaching touchdown in the Atlantic recovery area to conclude a successful 10-day Earth orbital space mission. The splashdown occurred at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on March 13, 1969. It's only 6.5 nautical miles from the prime recovery ship. And that mission was the first test of the lunar module, this time in Earth orbit. So it was a very successful and important mission. On March 16, year 1966, was the first successful space docking. Docking capability depends on space rendezvous, the ability of two spacecraft to find each other in station in the same orbit. This was the first spacecraft to find each other as first developed by the United States for Project Gemini. It was the plan for the crew of Gemini 6 to rendezvous with a manual dock under the command of Wally Schirra with an uncrewed Athena target vehicle on October 1965, but the Athena vehicle exploded during launch. On a revised mission, Gemini 6A, into space, Schirra successfully performed a rendezvous in December 65 with crewed Gemini 7, approaching to within 0.3 or 1 foot of the other spacecraft. There was no docking capability between the two Gemini spacecraft. The first spacecraft docking was performed under the command of Neil Armstrong between Gemini 8 and an uncrewed Athena target vehicle on March 15, 1966. Manual docking was performed on 3 subsequent Gemini missions in 1966. And that's it. Brenda, back to you. KC5 I6.
Okay, thank you so much for reading all of that. We're going to come back to Chaz again, KF5JHA, and he's going to present Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. Go ahead, Chaz.
Thank you, Brenda. Oh, something else I forgot to say is Ohio's governor has made some sort of declaration for the entire state of Ohio for the April 8th eclipse. So things are coming down the pike really quickly, and lots of things are going on April the 8th. So, Slide Master, slide number 21, please. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key, Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019 with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Now, since there's about 52 easily visible constellations seen over North Texas throughout the year out of the 88 total number of constellations, Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. And in her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is actually a twofer: Lynx, the Wild Cat, and Cancer, the Crab. Lynx is one of the more recent constellations, first appearing in 1690 on a star map. Before this, the stars in this group were sometimes depicted as a tiger, but this has fallen out of disuse. For those who enjoy observing double stars, Lynx is known to have a collection of double stars. Slide Master, slide number 22. One of the most important things about Skynet are the jokes of the week, and I've got two different segments for those because I have two different constellations. So Slide Master, slide number 22. So this first sequence of jokes has to do with Lynx. When I searched the Canadian cats in Google, it just gave me a bunch of links. Get it? Links? Did you hear about the bobcat who found his long-lost cousin? He followed links in his family tree. Why are those big cats over there? She wanted to be the missing link. She wanted to be the missing link. And Lynx just ate 50 rabbits. I guess it was a bad hair day. Okay, these weren't very good jokes, were they? That's right, I've got another one for the next constellation. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 23, please. Now, we've already talked about Orion the Hunter. To find Lynx, start at Orion and go north. You should drive at the bright star Capella with it's almost about overhead. If it were clear tonight, you could find it. Then you just go to the left or east, and you'd run into the faint stars of the constellation of Lynx. Slide Master, slide number 24. 12 Lyncus, the triple star system, has an A and B component separated by only 1.5 times the diameter of our solar system, giving a separation of only 1.7 arc seconds as seen from the Earth. The C component is about 8.7 arc seconds from the A-B pair. 38 Lynx is a nice double star with differing colors between the two different members. Slide Master, slide number 25. NGC, which stands for New General Catalog, number 2419, is a very faint distant globular cluster commonly known as the Intergalactic Wanderer because for many years it's believed not to be part of the Milky Way's family of globular clusters. Nowadays, however, it's generally accepted to be a long, highly elliptical, eccentric orbit around the Milky Way. NGC 2419 is believed to be the most distant globular cluster known until further globular clusters were finally found. The most recent estimates place NGC 2419 at about 300,000 light years from our solar system. Slide Master, slide number 26. The constellation of Cancer, the Crab, represents the crab that Juno sent to further harass and distract Hercules while he was embattled with the monstrous Hydra. Crab nipped at Hercules' toes with his claws and was soon crushed and killed by Hercules. Juno placed it in the sky to commemorate it. Slide Master, slide number 27, the next round of jokes for this constellation. So, how do crustaceans celebrate their birthdays? Well, with crab cakes, of course. What do you call a crab that doesn't like to share? A shellfish. Why did a hermit crab refuse to go in its shell? because it was claustrophobic. What do you call a female crab who's also single? Michelle? Get it, Michelle? A crab walks into the bar, and the bartender says, "I can't serve you. You're already walking sideways." Okay, that's probably pretty funny. Slide master, slide number 28. To find Cancer, you just go south of Lynx, but you can also find Cancer in between the constellations of Leo and Gemini. Slide master, slide number 29. Theta Cancri is also known as Tegmini, which means the covering, referring to the crab's shell or exoskeleton. It's a triple star system from shifts in the orbits of star C and D components, was finally physically resolved using an adaptive optics camera on the 3.6 meter Canadian, France, Hawaiian telescope in the year 2000. So, the mobile star system. Slide master, slide number 30. M44, also known as the Beehive Cluster, Perseid, which is also Latin for manger. The beehive is nicknamed, is relatively recent, although it comes from the name for the manger. Turns out that the word might have been misinterpreted either from manger or beehive. The manger interpretation is the older of the two and represents the manger in which the two donkeys are feeding. The beehive represents is appropriate since the stars in the cluster resemble a swarm of bees. M44 is visible from dark sky sight with just the unaided eye as a fuzzy patch of light in the heart of the constellation of Cancer, the crab. With his telescope in the year 1610, Galileo was the first to reveal M44's true nature and resolve it into stars, describing it as a mass of more than 40 small stars. At times, the moon will pass in front of M44, providing a night of many occultations of the beehive star cluster. And it's fun when that happens. That also happens with the Pleiades star cluster, too, which will happen later on this year. Slide master, slide number 21. Messier's object M67 is another open star cluster lying in about 9 degrees south of M44, easily found just west of Alpha Cancri. Sharp-eyed observers can see it with the unaided eye from dark skies when conditions are just right, but it have to be pretty perfect because it's a lot fainter than M44. It provides an interesting comparison to M44 because it's much further away at its 2,600 light years compared to M44's 515 light years. M67 is also an unusual and different way. Its stellar population is unlike most galactic open clusters, but instead it has stars with spectral colors and magnitudes more like those of globular star clusters. M67 has been so intensely studied that accurate colors and magnitudes are known for over 500 of the stars, down to 16th magnitude in the star cluster. In a telescope, M67 is a nice open cluster. Has been written, it has been written on the appearance of M67 in several publications. And to some, the stars of M67 form an interesting pattern, forming a shape like a bird or a dragon with outstretched wings. I'll have to notice that the next time I look at it. Hopefully soon, in the next few nights. And this is KFI, JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 32. There are a few more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Lynx, the Wildcat, and Cancer, the Crab. I've just given you a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 77 different observing programs. Most of them have around 100 objects. So if you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen from the Astronomical League in about a year. Slide master, slide number 33. And that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Lynx the Cat, and Cancer the Crab. Actually, it was a twofer. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for the research and words on deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal for every Skynet. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for more information. Now, next week, we'll take a look at two more constellations. Yes, it's another night of twofers. Leo the Lion and Leo Minor the Small Lion. And this is KF5JHA. Time to get back to our net control. Brenda, it's all yours. 73, everyone.
Thank you, Taz. Do we have any more check-ins now?
Kilo, Golf, 5, Uniform, Foxtrot, Romeo, Jacob in Dallas.
So Golf 5, Bravo, Zulu, Whiskey, J, no Weather.
Kilo Golf 5 Yankee Sierra Delta, Jerry, and Fairview.
Okay, we have Kilo Golf 5, Uniform Foxtrot Romeo, Jacob, Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey, Jay, and Kilo Golf 5, Yankee Sierra Delta, Jerry. Welcome to the net. This is WB5OZL. Next up, space launches for this week. Nicole and Tom, KE5ICX, to tell us what's going on.
Thank you, Brenda. And this is KE5ICX. Get all the information from spaceflightnow.com/launch schedule. It's the same. Virtually every one of these launches has some sort of television coverage over the internet, so by all means, check it out. It's always interesting. March 18th, 19th, overnight, the Falcon 19 Starlink 7-6 launch from Vandenberg to Space Force and Space. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch 23 Starlink Internet satellites from Space Launch Complex 4E, SOC 4E. The Falcon 9 first stage booster will be targeting the landing of the drone ship. Of course, I still love you in the Pacific Ocean. March 20th will be a launch from Wallops Flight Facility in Virginia, Launch Complex 2. The Rocket Lab Electron rocket will launch its first mission to the National Reconnaissance Office, or NRO, from Launch Complex 2 at the launch facility in Virginia. NRO 123 mission, also known as LIV, and LET, RASR contract, to launch a classified payload to orbit. March 21st will be the launch of Soyuz NS-25. This will be from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. The Russian government Soyuz rocket will be the crewed Soyuz MS-25 spacecraft going to the International Space Station. Mission will carry Russian Commander Oleg Novitsky, from Belarusian flight engineer Marina Vasilskaya, and NASA astronaut Tracy Dyson into orbit for long-duration flight at the space station. Rocket will fly in the Soyuz 2.18 configuration. Soyuz will dock at the Krikau module about 3 hours after liftoff. Return trip, it will bring back astronauts Oleg Kononenko and Nikolai Chuk. March 21st, we'll see a Falcon 9 launch of the CRS-30 from SLC-40 in Cape Canaveral. This Falcon 9 rocket will launch the Dragon 2 spacecraft on a cargo resupply mission to the International Space Station. Falcon 9's first stage booster will land back at Landing Zone 1 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. Flight is the 30th mission by SpaceX conducted under the Commercial Resupply Services contract with NASA. It's also the first launch of the second-generation Dragon to the space station, lifting off from SCL-40. Then we have on March 22nd, Falcon 9 launch, Starlink 6-24, Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy. This rocket will launch another batch of second generation new mini-internet satellites. Falcon 9's first stage booster will land on a drone ship in the Pacific Ocean. March 28th will see the launch of a Delta IV Heavy, which is from SOC-37B at Cape Canaveral. The United Launch Alliance Delta IV Heavy rocket will launch classified spy satellite cargo for the U.S. National Reconnaissance Office. The largest of the Delta IV family, the Heavy version features 3 common booster cores mounted together to form a triple-body rocket. This is the final flight of the Delta IV rocket. Further into April, we have an Atlas V launch. This is the SOC-41 from Cape Canaveral. This one will be the United Launch Alliance's... Oh, wait. This has not been updated. This will be actually sometime May. Getting ready to launch Atlas V rocket designated AB-085, launch Boeing CFC-100 Starliner spacecraft on its first mission with astronauts known as the test flight to the International Space Station. The capsule will dock with the space station and return to Earth, landing in the western United States. NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams will fly the mission. The rocket will fly in a vehicle configuration with solid rocket boosters and dual-engine Centaur upper stage. This has been delayed from multiple flights starting all the way back to 2020. I won't read them all, it goes on and on. But you've been reading about Boeing in the newspapers, so this is probably what's going on. Next up is the April Vulcan Centaur launch. This is to be determined. This will be the launch of Dream Chaser 1 from SOC-41, Cape Canaveral. The United Launch Alliance Vulcan Centaur rocket will launch on the second demonstration flight with Sierra Space Dream Chaser cargo vehicle for the International Space Station. Dream Chaser is a lift-body resupply spacecraft that will launch on top of a rocket and land on a runway. This will be Dream Chaser's first flight into space. The Vulcan Centaur rocket will fly in the V-4L configuration with 4 Gen 63XL solid rocket boosters, a long-length payload bearing, and 2 RL-10 rocket engines on the Centaur upper stage. And I'll give you one more here. I think I went copy-paste crazy. April 30th, Falcon Heavy launch for the GOES-U mission from Launch Complex 39A in Cape Kennedy. The SpaceX Falcon Heavy will launch the 4th and final satellite in the next generation series of geostationary weather satellites from NASA and NOAA. GOES-U will orbit 22,300 miles above the equator to monitor weather conditions across the United States. The satellite will be renamed GOES-19 once it reaches its operational orbit. Okay, let me do one more. This one's kind of interesting. The Long March 2C, or SDO launch from Changcheng Satellite Launch Center in the People's Republic of China. A Chinese Long March 2C rocket will launch the space-based multi-band astronomical variable objects monitor, SATCOM, spacecraft. Satellite is a dual Franco-Chinese mission, which is dedicated to the study of the most distant explosive stars, gamma-ray bursts. There are 4 main instruments on board, 2 of which are French and 2 which are Chinese. The spacecraft will be launched to a 625-kilometer Earth orbit and will operate for at least 3 years with an option to extend for another 2 years beyond that. It's delayed from 2023. That's it from me, Brenda. Back to you. 5 ICS.
Thank you very much. This is WB5OZL. Next up, recent astronomical discoveries. I have an article from ScienceDaily.com entitled Explaining a Supernova's String of Pearls. Physicists often turn to the Rayleigh-Taylor instability to explain why fluid structures form in plasmas. But that might not be the full story when it comes to the ring of hydrogen clumps around supernova 1987A. Research from the University of Michigan suggests in a study published in Physical Review Letters The team argues that the Crow instability does a better job of explaining the string of pearls encircling the remnant of the star, shedding light on a long-standing astrophysical mystery. The fascinating part about this is that the same mechanism that breaks up airplane wakes could be in play here, said Michael Wattis, corresponding author of the study and a graduate student in mechanical engineering at the time of the work. In jet contrails, the Crow instability creates breaks in the smooth line of clouds because the spiraling airflow coming off the end of each wing, known as wingtip vortices. These vortices flow into one another, creating gaps, something we can see because of the water vapor in the exhaust. And the Crow instability can do something that Rayleigh-Taylor could not, predict the number of clumps seen around the remnant. The Rayleigh-Taylor instability could tell you that there might be clumps, but it would be very difficult to pull a number out of it, said Wattis, who is now a postdoctoral scholar at the California Institute of Technology. Supernova 1987A is among the most famous stellar explosions because it's relatively close to Earth at 163,000 light years away, and its light reached Earth at a time when sophisticated observatories existed to witness its evolution. It is the first supernova visible to the naked eye since Kepler's supernova in 1604, making it an incredibly rare astrophysical. While much is still unknown about the star that exploded, it is believed that the ring of gas surrounding the star ahead of the explosion came from the merger of two stars. Those stars shed hydrogen into the space around them as they became blue giants. They became blue giant tens of thousands of years before the supernova. That ring-shaped cloud of gas was then buffeted by the stream of high-speed charged particles coming off the blue giant, known as the stellar wind. The clumps are believed to have formed before the star exploded. The researchers simulated the way the wind pushed the cloud outward while also dragging on the surface, with the top and bottom of the cloud being pushed out faster than the middle. This caused the cloud to curl in on itself, which triggered the Crow instability and caused it to break apart into fairly even clumps that became the string of pearls. The prediction of 32 is very close to the observed 30 to 40 clumps around the supernova 1987 remnant. There's a big piece of why we think this is the Crow instability, said Eric Johnson, UM professor of mechanical engineering and senior author of the study. The team saw hints that the Crow instability might predict the formation of more beady rings around the star, further out from the ring that appears brightest in telescope images. They were pleased to see that more clumps seemed to appear in the shot from the James Webb Space Telescope's near-infrared camera released in August last year, Wattis explained. The team also suggested that the Crow instability might be at play when the dust around a star settles into planets, although further research is needed to explore this possibility. The study was supported by the Department of Energy with computing resources provided by the Extreme Science and Engineering Discovery Environment. Co-authors of the study are William White and Aaron Town, a graduate student and an assistant professor in mechanical engineering, respectively, and Heath Lefevre and Carolyn Currance, a research fellow and an associate professor of nuclear engineering and radiological sciences, respectively, all at UM. All right, that's the end of that. And so next up, this passages over the next couple of days. K5 ICX. Tom, do you have anything for us here?
Not really, Brenda. I thought originally that there was maybe something wrong with the website, but in fact, I think we're in one of those positions where there's really no favorable reflections off of most of this satellite. So we'll skip it for this evening. Come back to you, Brenda, K5 ICX.
tonight. We're running just a couple of minutes early. So do we have any questions for tonight? Or does anybody need any fills? Okay, then we'll just wrap it up a few minutes early. Tonight, oh, hold on.
Kilo India 5, Sierra Zulu Bravo, Brenda, Max here.
Kilo India 5, Sierra Zulu Bravo, Max, go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to thank Tom for that excellent rundown on the launches. In addition to being a JPL Solar System Ambassador for the past 20 years, I'm a principal space scientist for Charles River Analytics in Cambridge, and I do a lot of work with the stuff that these launches put in space, and there's 21,343 objects in the orbital regime today. On Wednesday, the 28th of February, it was an interesting, extremely close conjunction between Cosmos 2221 and the NASA timed satellite. You didn't read about this, but they came within 17 meters of each other. That's 17 meters in low Earth orbit. Now these two uncommanded vehicles are in what we call a free flyer status. The Cosmos was launched in '65. It was a Soviet ELINT satellite, and NASA timed is, I don't understand, but it's about a 20-year-old, it's just a free flyer. It's an Earth observer, but they're basically in a periodic intersecting orbit, and this hopefully won't happen again, because had it happened, had they had a conjunction, with their combined mass of over 2,300 kilograms at over 18,000 meters per second, kilometers per hour, they would have increased the debris in low Earth orbit by over 50%. And you know, it is quite possible, given what they would have done, it could have created a Kessler syndrome. KI5, Sierra Zulu Bravo, Max. Have a good night.
Okay, thank you for that information, Max. That is very interesting. Okay, tonight we had 20 hams participating on the air. Thanks to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussions about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful Internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima. Brenda, I'll be closing the net at 10:22 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. 73, everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. But wait, there's one more net, K5 ICX. Let us know when we're going to start and what our movie is. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Brenda. This is K5 ICX. We'll be back in about 5 minutes. Nice movie, the beginning of the end, or beginning of the end. giant locust. Oh boy. We'll see you here in 5. This is KG5 IC.
Normal state. W5FT.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
Okay, it's time to go back to your radio, have your bucket of popcorn, of bacon, they should have maybe hearing some of the discussion on the rush over to get some popcorn going. But tonight's movie, we have a movie every week. This one is called Beginning of the End from 1957. It's a science fiction film produced and directed by Burt Ward, stars Peter Graves. Yes, that Peter Graves from Mission Impossible, Peggy Castle, and Morris Ackland, an agricultural scientist played by Graves, successfully grows gigantic vegetables using radiation. Fortunately, the vegetables are eaten by locusts, these swarming phase born grasshoppers, which quickly grow to a gigantic size and attack the nearby city of Chicago. The end is generally known for its atrocious special effects and high-definition. And yet, right, reviewer Bill Warren, there's something almost compellingly watchable about these issues that is interesting. And that may be true. We certainly will have a lot to talk about this week. So let me go through the plot here really quick while you go and get your popcorn. The film opens with a newspaper photojournalist Audrey Ames accidentally summoned from a small town called Ludlow, Illinois, which did swiftly destroyed. All 150 residents are missing. Evidence indicates that they're dead. Incredibly, the local fields are also barren, as if a swarm of locusts had eaten all the crops. Ames suspects that the military is covering something up that travels to nearby United States Department of Agriculture experimental farm to learn what creatures might have caused the agricultural destruction. Meet Dr. Ed Wainwright, who is experimenting with radiation and means of growing gigantic fruits and vegetables to end world hunger. Wainwright reports that there have been a number of mysterious incidents nearby and is focused on all the radioactive heat stored in nearby silo. Gigantic locusts rampage over the countryside. Wainwright begins to track down the source of mysterious occurrences and quickly discover that the locusts of a sheep brain had grown into the size of a city bus. The monsters have eaten all the crops in the area and now have turned to the human beings as a source of substance. It's also clear that they are headed for Chicago. Wainwright names the General Ensign, Colonel Surgeon, and Captain March to try and come up with a solution. Machine gun and artillery fire seems ineffective against the creatures. There are far too many to effectively deal with all at once. The United States Army and Illinois National Guard are called upon to help protect the city, but the monsters quickly invade Chicago and begin to feast on human flesh, as well as several buildings, or in this case, photographs from several buildings. General Hansen concludes that the only way to destroy the beast en masse is to use a nuclear weapon and destroy Chicago. However, Wainwright realizes that the locusts are warm weather creatures and they want to go to Florida, that country. He concludes that he might be able to lure the locusts into Lake Michigan using a decoy locust mating ball generated electronically with chemtone oscillators. There, the cold water will incapacitate them and they will drown. The plan works at the last possible moment. The monsters will hit the ground, but Wainwright aims and wonders if other insects or animals might have eaten other radioactive crops. But we'll never know because they ran out of money making this movie. Okay, here's the deal. You don't have to necessarily have seen this movie from 1969 or even have seen it in 1957. I'm sorry, 1967. But that's okay if you had a chance to see it. It is available on too late now. We're doing this review of it. So we will have 3 rounds. We will discuss round 1, the plot, how wonderful it is. Round 2, we'll discuss the acting and the actors and their abilities. In round 3, we'll discuss the atrocious special effects as noted in this review and discussion. And I'm sure you will have plenty of things to discuss about the behavior of the locusts, the scientists, and the military. So with that, I will take check-in. Please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see this fine film? As I mentioned, you do not have to have seen the film. Just check in and we will give you an opportunity to decide if you want this film. So here we go. Please come with your call sign, your name, and CCC. Tonight's film, Beginning of the End, from 1957.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike. I can't believe I'm still awake. Tony in Dallas. Yes, I saw it.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill and Irving. I'm watching it right now. I believe I've seen it before, in fact, but I definitely recognize some of the actors in 5BB.
This is Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda in Dallas. I have seen this movie. This is the first time I've ever seen it. Never saw it before. But none of it looks familiar.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia at Fort Worth. I have seen this movie.
Golf 5, Bravo to the Whiskey J in Weatherford. I just saw the film.
Okay, let me go ahead and get these folks checked in, see if anybody else is out there. In the usual order, in fact, NT 5 p.m., Tony in Dallas, yes, he saw the movie. Bill is back, N5BB. Irving, yes, he saw the film. WB50Z, Elvin Brenda, our net control from Skynet this evening in Dallas, yes, she saw the movie. ND5F, Virginia and Fort Worth, she admits she's seen the movie. And Jay is back, KG5BZW, near Weatherford. Yes, he saw the movie. Anyone else want to check in for tonight's after-film movie, which is beginning of the end, 1967.
Whiskey 5, Bacon, Lettuce, Tomato, W5BLT, Bill in Garland. Yes, I saw this great, fine film.
All right, excellent. We picked up one more. W5PLT, Bill in Garland. He's also seen the film. Okay, well, let's not delay it any longer. Others can check in. When we get to the bottom of the list, I will take additional check-ins at that point. You'll have your chance to say more. Or if you're ready to check in, or not, or you suddenly remember this movie and want to chime in, that will be the opportunity to do so. So I'm just going to go down the list in the order that you checked in, starting with Tony. That would be NT5 PM. Tony, amazingly awake, he says, and he's so tell us, what do you think about the plot for Beginning of the End from 1957?
Well, thank you, Tom. I found the plot a little bit disappointing. I was promised stock footage of a B-52, and I kind of think they showed me stock footage of a B-36. So the plot was very frustrating for me. I missed the exciting part there. Of course, the plot was full of appalling holes. Grasshoppers are easy to shoot if a main character does it, and impossible to shoot if a nameless extra fires a tank gun at them, for example. I don't know how chitin can stop bullets. It's no actual harder than the stuff in your fingernail. Maybe it's the extreme thickness, so thick they can't possibly breathe through it. I don't know. So the plot was silly, very typical of the giant radiation monster movie genre. I guess they tried to add some variety by having the giant monsters attack Chicago instead of New York or L.A. Very original, very original. I did watch the MST3K version of it, and so I was treated to a 15-act play written by Crow T. Robot about how Peter Graves attended the University of Minnesota. So that was actually kind of riveting there. Yeah, can't say much nice about the plot. Not that very interesting. And T5TM.
Very good. Well, thank you, Tony, and thank you for participating this evening. Yeah, the plot was a little bit thin. Well, let's see what other people can dig up. Bill, N5TV. Bill, back at nighttime, late night, deep late night television, and movies, and all that great stuff. Radio, of course. What did you think of our fine film? You're still watching it, but you also said that you've probably seen it before. And I don't recall if we've watched it before or not. We've seen so many of these darn films. Sometimes I just try and put them out of my memory. But it's possible we've seen it before. But it doesn't matter. We're starting over again. What do you think about the plot, Bill, from KE5?
Well, thank you, Tom. This is Inside BB. Yeah, right now, giving up, because I was still pretty early in the movie, so I'm skipping ahead, looking at scenes. And, I recognize so well the Army people, and of course Peter Graves, and I think probably the actress, but definitely all the Army people. I've seen them before on more than one movie. It seems like I've seen this one, but I'm not positive. I probably have, but it might have been a long time ago. One thing I just discovered, because I just saw it, was the lady journalist has a radio phone in her car. Ooh, that was really early to have a radio phone in your car that you could talk to the Chicago operator directly. Ooh, high tech for 1957. Again, stupid plot with big locusts. Radiation. Warning, warning, warning. Modern technology is going to kill the world. Inside BB.
Thank you, Bill. But if you noticed that there was no antenna for the car, so I assume that they just had a big, long line that they twisted hair that ran to the car, and it was on a spool that ran, I don't know, 1,000 miles or something. So, just nice car, though. I really like the car. Brenda, WB5OZL, we are sailing through the thin plot. What would you like to add? Take as much time as you need or want, because nobody seems to have really much to say about the fine film and plot. Please go ahead. From KT5I6.
This is WB5OZL. I'm pretty sure we didn't watch this because I have never seen it before, which is much to my regret, having been deprived of it all these years. It's just such a wonderful science fiction B movie. This would have been a much more interesting movie if the locusts had been able to fly like real locusts do. But, it would have changed the plot up quite a bit. But they just sort of, wished it away by explaining somehow. For some reason, they didn't develop wings because they don't explain how they grew. Generally, creatures with a hard shell have to do something like, molt. They're pretty much grown, born full grown, hatched, mostly almost full grown. Maybe they do shed a exoskeleton and grow a little bit, but that would be so ridiculous for these large creatures. Exoskeletons lying around would have been pretty frightening looking. So formulaic, the premise. Radiation has somehow turned some creatures into monsters. How many movies have we seen that? And they develop a taste for humans Imagine they would have been eating cattle along the way, or generally locusts just strip the leaves off of things. They eat all the plants. So I would think these big creatures would have just eaten all the trees. It would just be a barren landscape, and they're so big, they would need a lot of food. Think of, 185-pound guy ain't going to cut it. They're going to need a tree. So, and climbing up the buildings was kind of ridiculous, kind of fakey. And interesting, they managed to get them all into the lake to drown. The story they told, how they drove them with bushes into the water, that's one thing, but getting them just to go willingly, they wouldn't normally just go into water and drown. I'm just not buying that part. Or even the whole premise of how it is that they created this some way to attract them. I thought it was hilarious. They were giving this thing a lie detector test. I was waiting for them to ask, have you ever stolen anything? Or have you ever told a lie or something like that? That just would have been a little more appropriate. All right, back to net, WB50ZL.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Brenda. Well, what do you want? They're locusts. They're stupid. They're going to go in the water. You tell them that, the water's fine. Great. Just swim it. Maybe that would have worked. Who knows? But, let me put down the boat. That was interesting. Okay, I'm trying to do my notes so that I can tell my notes. So next is Virginia, NV5, that's Virginia. I know you saw the film. You probably even liked it. You thought it was great. Or maybe not. But tell us your thoughts on some for our fine film. Get to the end.
Thank you, Tom. Hello, everyone. It's good to hear you all. Glad we have a lively group for this. I had not seen this until today. It was a pretty typical giant insect radiation mid-50s plot. They tried to start it with an intriguing, what are they, there's a couple out in the woods, parked necking or whatever, and then there's sound, and then there's screaming, and then there's the opening credits, and pretty, I don't know. It was, the review called it, kind of watchable, and it paced okay. Like, it wasn't like anything dragged or necessarily got boring, but it was pretty predictable. As soon as you saw giant tomatoes and strawberries, you kind of knew some giant animal or creature or something was coming. I kind of wondered, the science is, we're using radiation to create giant plants, but they're not edible. We're hoping that once, we've, got several generations down and the mutations are, they're not irradiated. They're just big because of mutations, I guess. We could eat them, but the locusts didn't care. They just ate them. Things were pretty predictable, like when they went on their little outing to the destroyed grain warehouse. They had to take a third person with them so someone would get killed, and it was the poor little scientist who was somehow rendered deaf and mute by radiation. I thought that was a little weird and sad, and of course you have an ineffectual military, and of course you've got the guy who's, the military people are like, oh yeah, let's send like 10 guys, and then they get their butts kicked, and they realized they need to send 10,000 guys. The plot thing about using HF radio signals and lie detectors. I'm not sure. They somehow got a reading off that polygraph that told them when they hit the right frequency. I'm not sure how that had to do with a polygraph. I don't think a big giant locust can lie or tell the truth. It's just a big locust. Them catching it was pretty funny, and then somehow containing it, and it was. Then they have to attack the big city. Not sure why they went for the city, since I guess they had, like Brenda was saying, they had developed a taste for flesh. They didn't want plants anymore. Maybe they'd eaten everything in the wilderness, on the countryside. I don't know. The plot was just predictable and dumb, and was an excuse to have people screaming and lots of people dying. I don't know. I don't really have a lot of charity for this kind of a plot, because it was very it was easy to figure out what was going to happen. Drowning giant locusts, I guess, in Lake Michigan. Interesting. But the temperature thing, they've used that in other bug movies before, like, once it's too cold, they can't function or whatever. But I don't know. I'm feeling just kind of, I don't have a whole lot to say here, because there was nothing real interesting about it. The little romance was obvious. The military guys, their role was pretty obvious. When I saw that it was only an hour and 12 minutes, I was grateful and knew that the plot would be short and sweet, and that's pretty much what it was. So, yeah, not much to say. Back to net, NV5F.
Hey, thank you for tuning in. I've been doing some information mining. I've got a doozy coming up when it's my turn. Next up is Jay, KG5BZW. Jay, welcome back. You're still near Weatherford. What did you think of the plot for our fine film, Beginning of the End, from 1957?
Yeah, let me just point out, like, one good seed of truth. Pun intended, I guess. I do want to note, even though, the absurdity of the gigantic tomatoes and whatnot, and actually the whole mechanisms that they described in the film, if you ignore all that, there is a process where people have used gamma radiation from cobalt-60 to introduce genetic mutations into crops, so that they can mutate it and then perform a certain amount of selection on those that it turns out to have these mutations. You can look up mutation breeding for that. Now on to the silly part, which is most of the film. Brenda covered one of the big things is it doesn't really make sense in any way. I can't make the story make sense, besides the magic of the giant locust. However, and ignoring, the square cube law and all that jazz. These locusts, their exoskeletons from the molting should be littering the ground all over the place. Long before, all of a sudden, oh, wow, we have this danger, giant locust. It doesn't make sense for it just to be all of a sudden issued. There should have been lots and lots of signs. They tried. you can see how in the film they tried to, put a statement here or there or whatever, just to keep you focused or whatever. I don't know what to say. To really just corner cut. I don't want to say corner cut, but there's a term I'm trying to say. That off in the plot. Let's just say, but keep you whatever the term is to keep you from drifting too far from the fantasy or sci-fi setting. They introduce a lot of stuff, but it is still quite silly. And it's such a was it any way I could figure that the protagonist could have the locust and succeeded on the building, whereas a whole army trained professionals on the field when the locusts were first encountered, they couldn't get a shot in. The only thing I can think of, and they didn't even portray it this way, I'm just making up crap just to make the story make some sense, is that they had access to shoot the underbelly. Somehow, and I don't know if the underbelly would be weaker. I tend to think probably, I don't know what's the strongest part of locust, but you often think in terms of weak spots, and underbelly is a weak spot. So I don't know. Maybe that's my edit to the film to make it a little bit more sense. But and the other big thing, the radio broadcast. Okay, you as him know, you are limited in the frequencies that you're broadcasting, and typically most equipment, has those filters placed so that what's been transmitted is within the, so you won't be transmitting out channel, which they didn't, of course. I don't know if a typical. That's more something like Hams would know. It's like, oh, okay, because they had this explanation about, well, okay, maybe there's these harmonics to the signal that we need to generate that are outside of human hearing. Well, that means the audio transmission is going to be, the bandwidth is going to be quite huge. And, there's no real reason for the radio to be transmitting that stuff, so, whatever. Anyway. Let me see. I go. And very. Something to watch and get drunk to, even though I didn't have any alcohol. It's just. I don't know. It really is just the silliest thing. That's all I got. KQ5BGW.
All right, thank you, Jay. Yeah, I know. Next up is Bill, W5BLT. Bill, your comments on the plot for our fine film, Beginning of the End, from 1957.
Well, I have to give this movie a thumbs up. I found the plot totally believable. Keep in mind that if these grasshoppers or locusts were giant, they're the exoskeleton and the shell, they would be able to probably withstand our military. And, now I did get a little bit lost on why the forest, wasn't all chopped down and stuff. But, sometimes you have to suspend reality just for a little bit. And there's nothing like a good science fiction movie to, from the 50s and 60s to to indulge your family with it. So I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I thought the plot was very believable and the desperation of the military. You know, we've seen this many times before, but, you know, when you're going against giant rats or leeches or grasshoppers, locusts, whatever, you know, it is kind of frightening. And so I found that just totally believable, and I can't say enough good things about this movie. You know, I watched all kinds of these movies growing up as a kid, and I vaguely remember insects was just terrifying. And you know, maybe that's for another part, but you know, just the way that they were deafening, and you know, that was very believable because every grasshopper I've heard as a kid when I was little made those little noises as well. So anyway, and despite the fact that my grandfather would give us quarters if we caught grasshoppers, and I never caught any, and all the sighted people around me did, there's no bitterness or anything against grasshoppers, be they small or giant. That's all I have, W5BLT. Back to you, Tom.
Well, thank you, Bill. And now we know the rest of the story about grasshoppers collecting. Change from the hard work that you have to do. Okay, let's see. Here, we're about on the list. I do see Sean over on Echoing. I'll bet you would like to check in. KB9SOK. Sean, are you out there?
Kilo Bravo 9, sir. After Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. And yes, I did see this myself.
Right, very good. Well, go ahead. Tell us what you thought about the plot. You're next in line, so please go ahead.
That's okay. I agree with what everybody said. Plot's pretty simple. Obviously, we've seen this 50 million times. Different bugs. So I will give them credit for using something new. It wasn't a spider. It wasn't a lizard or a praying mantis. We get to see something new. But it's still the same. And I agree with what everybody said. Probably the biggest kick I got out of this movie was the fact that I spent most of my life actually in the area they were talking about. I lived literally about an hour and a half away from that little town, Ledlow. And I've actually been to a lot of the towns they talked about as they marched on to Chicago. So I got a chuckle out of that. That might be the favorite part of the film for me, because you don't normally hear about those small farming communities on a movie. So I had to laugh. Yeah, to Brenda's point, yeah, for sure. I mean, there's, you know, it's nothing but farm fields and you know, lots of acres with cows and, you know, horses, and, you know, it would blow my mind that they wouldn't spend for the animals before they would ever get close to a major city. So yeah, that was probably, I agree, the first big pothole. And then, yeah, I agree with Jay on the weapons. That made no sense. The building, you know, a simple rifle was taking them out. So, yeah, the plot was kind of crazy. I agree with that. It was only an hour 12, so that was nice. It was watchable, but it was just your... Nothing particular unique about it. So, yeah, that's all I got. Back to that, KB9SOK.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Sean. And I'll go ahead and ask if anyone else would like to check in. Tonight's movie is beginning of the end, 1957. You don't necessarily have to see the movie, but if you have, even better, you can have comments about it. So if anybody else is out there, please come with your comments.
November 5 Sierra, Quebec Alpha.
And it's a voice from the deep night at the M5SQA. That's Ron. welcome, Ron. Did you see our fine film, beginning of the end? And if you did, do you have any fine comments about our fine film?
Good evening, Tom, and everybody else. I'm a little bit hoarse tonight. Sorry about that. No, I did not see the fine film, although I'm getting mixed feelings about some of the reviews I've been hearing for the past, I think I've been here about 25 minutes now. At any rate, sounds like a fine film. I will be lurking for a little while longer and maybe a couple of cough drops here. N5SQA back to net.
Give my comments here in a minute. This may change your opinion. By the way, you now have a radio voice. Your congestion seems to have lowered your voice a little bit, and you sound very professional radio sounding. So you might want to keep that up, just forever being sick, and you have a new career, a second career, radio announcer. How about that? Okay, well, let me give you my comments. First off, I agree with what everybody was saying about the film. I don't think there's any disagreement at all. I thought that a couple of things about the film that were quite strange, and that has to do with how mundane everyone was about the whole thing, about this thing getting big. When they go and see Peter Graves' work, you know, we have these big tomatoes. They're gigantic, right? Nobody says anything, oh, that's nice. You know, we're going to solve world hunger. Nobody's excited about it. I mean, this is a big deal. Big tomato could serve a family of 10. Just one tomato. Imagine what that would be like. It's like, oh, that's nice. Oh, look, there's snails getting into our stuff. It's something every week. And you go, okay, but look at the big tomatoes behind you. You don't even care. No, not really. Then there's examples where you tell the military, well, we're going to have a military strike. Well, they're going to Section 8 or whatever the hell it is, because nobody would believe that locusts are on the attack and we need to run tanks against them. That's fine, but you forgot to tell them their size of the buses. And, you know, take a picture or two. You wouldn't let her take a picture, but you had the film in her camera. You could have probably taken a picture then and then sent it off to Washington to show them that you had giant locusts or grasshoppers or whatever the hell you want to call them. And then finally, when they realize that it's real and they're breaking through, oh, well, you know, what do we do? Yeah, it's very, nobody seems overly interested. It's like a ho-hum until finally everybody gets wiped out. And this kind of falls into the special effects. But, Bill, you're right. And I think the reason that you saw what looks like this before is the military guys you were talking about. Yeah, we've seen those sequences before with invasion stuff in any of the movies from the 50s. When there's giant animals, people on the move, or aliens looking to destroy the world, it's the same shot. That thing where they come in with the helicopters and the guys get out or they parachute in. We've seen that stock footage in at least 2 or 3 of them. Now, everyone hold your nose. Here is the big deal that somehow we missed while watching the credits, and that is who wrote this thing. There's actually 2 people that were credited. One was Lester Gorn, no relation to the Gorn from Lost in Space, or from the other thing. Fred Friedberger. Now, for anybody who knows anything about Fred Friedberger was an American film and television writer and producer. He did movies up until 1958 and then moved to television. Star Trek fans remember him as the producer of Star Trek and the ill-fated 3rd season of the original series, where everybody hated and thought it was terrible. He was also the producer of the 2nd and last season of Space 1999, which fans who liked the 1st season hated it and hated Fred Friedberger for Space 1999, 2nd and final season. He was also the producer after the untimely death of Michael Garrison, I think it was, on the Wild Wild West, produced Wild Wild West in the 1st season, which wasn't too bad how he got to Star Trek Space 1999. He was also the producer of the ill-fated final season of The $6 Million Man. Remember Bigfoot? Remember Aliens? Remember Aliens and Bigfoot? Fred Greenberger was involved. And if that doesn't work for you, there's also the animated series stuff he did, like the Scooby-Doo movies, Super Friends, and everyone's favorite that everybody wants to forget, The Ill-Fated, that's another one, Josie and the Pussycats, in Outer Space, the sequel series. Not the original with Josie and the Pussycats, which actually for animated stuff was pretty good. No, it was Josie and the Pussycats in Outer Space. Oh, I have one more, and I did not realize this. I've probably never seen it. But he also produced the short-lived and ill-fated Beyond Westworld in 1980. Yes, before Westworld, the TV series on HBO, there was a television series, I think it was on ABC, I'm not sure, in 1980 called Beyond Westworld, which was really nothing more than a warm-brother version of, you guessed it, The $6 Million Man. So now you know the rest of the story with Fred Greenberger, producer and lead person. So now you can see the memorial effort with the beginning of the end, written by Fred Greenberger. Okay, that's really all I wanted to add. Everybody else kind of has already touched upon kind of the stupid stuff on the film. So now we will move on to the second round, which has to do with the acting. We've got a number of people in this film. There's probably about 50 people in this film that are called out in the credits and then are cast of thousands in the stock footage. You can talk about any of them if you want. We will start at the top of the list with Tony at G5PM. Tony, what do you think about the characterization in the film, Beginning of the End, from 1957?
Well, good evening, Tom. Yeah, something, I can't remember who said this. I apologize for not giving credit. I think it was you, but I'm not positive. It is remarkable how little hysterics there was in this movie. Yes, people in stock footage are running and panicking, but by and large, look, a tomato bigger than a Volkswagen. The city country is being destroyed by locusts. Let's take a nap. Oh, wait. Oh, no, not. Yeah, it's pretty understated. The female reporter was very plucky, and I guess Peter Graves went to the University of Minnesota. I don't know what to say about him other than that, well, he was there, and he said things, and he seemed to know his lines. Virginia did hit on one of the major challenges in this movie, which is that they did not have a token black guy who could get killed. So instead they had to kill the token disabled guy, which is kind of sad. It was nice to see somebody who was disabled in a movie who was just doing a job and didn't seem to be the subject of the movie or constantly tripping and falling or something else. But no, they had to feed him to a locust. So, although some of the people were, okay, I guess, no characters were particularly standing out, and none of them really captured my interest or concern to any very great extent. They're there. And at this point, I'll try to keep listening, but yeah, I will have to check out. It's late. And I wish you well. Thank you for being net control. I know it's hard to stay awake for this net. NT5TM.
Okay, well, very good, Tony. Thank you for your contributions. I may try and call on you, but I'm sure you'll be going to bed. And my secret is I take 2 naps, one in the afternoon and one just before this net, before Skynet begins. That's enough to keep me chugging along until about midnight, and then I collapse. Next up is Bill, N5DD. Bill, your thoughts on the acting and characterization in my film. What is this thing? Beginning of the End from 1967. 85 ISO.
This is in 5BB. I have little to say. Peter Graves, as always, is competent, straightforward, the kind of quiet, calm hero character. And the plucky reporter was plucky, and she did her job properly. The Army people were Army people. The Army generals looked really rough, but were really pretty kind-hearted. Standard stuff, stock things. They did their job. They no outstanding performances, but outstanding performances weren't called for in this film. I mean, look, you have lotuses. Lotuses climbing on a two-dimensional sheet of paper, because you can tell when they're climbing on the buildings that when they go over places around corners and things, they just go straight up. They don't go over corners. They didn't even print out a three-dimensional building and had them climb over that. Oh, no. They were just climbing on a piece of paper with an image on it. That's all. It's IBB.
Oh, Bill, you weren't supposed to notice that. But and besides, that person's next round, it gets worse than that. Okay, next is Brenda, WB50ZL. Brenda, what do you think about characterization and acting in our fine film? Go ahead.
This is WB50ZL. I want to circle back to one thing. I like B-36 is better than B-52, so I'm not going to complain, except that it's sad that they don't know the difference. They don't know much similarity with them. But I enjoyed the B-36 myself. It's one of my favorite planes. I have a problem with the female. In the beginning, yeah, she served a purpose. She was a snoopy reporter trying to get the story then, but then she just kept hanging around in dangerous situations, and she didn't do anything. As a reporter, she should have been taking pictures and writing a story and phoning in her story back to her editor, but she just pretty much was a hand-wringer, and or somebody to scream and squeal and have the manly hero take care of her, and which Peter Graves does very well. He's very just a quintessential hero. He's handsome and masculine and got a deep voice, and he plays the part well. And I guess that's why he made so many of these movies. The rest of the people were kind of forgettable, except for the deaf-mute guy. That was sad that they take a disabled person and kill him right off. They never explained how he got disabled from the radiation. How come the Peter Graves character didn't get disabled like that? They never explained that. So with so many movies, they just don't explain things. Or they explain it in a way that's just nonsensical, like, well, yeah, their wings didn't develop because of radiation. Well, so what does that mean? Let's see, who else? I thought the Locusts did a pretty good job of acting. They walked from here to there, and they looked plenty menacing from the front. So, but I think they were typecast. All right, that's all I got. WB50ZL.
Okay, thank you, Brenda. Next up is Virginia, NC5F. Virginia, what did you think of the acting in our fine film and characterization? What did you say from 85 ICN?
Thank you, Tom. I would say the acting was just crisp and adequate. Yeah, everybody seemed, as was mentioned earlier, everybody seemed kind of, I don't know, in these kind of movies, you'd think things would be a little more melodramatic and even overacted, but everybody was trying to, I guess, try to be realistic, and then it just seemed like they didn't care. They were all I don't know, maybe they were all channeling Robert De Niro, not Robert De Niro, what's his face? Yeah, anyway, that guy. Yeah, anyway, everybody was just so laid back about it all. And yeah, when I saw those giant tomatoes, I was wondering why there wasn't more reaction to the giantness of the giant tomatoes. In fact, I was doing a double take going, are those giant tomatoes? No one seems to be noticing them, so maybe I'm seeing them wrong. But yeah, it was all just pretty sort of straightforward and there, and everybody did okay playing their stereotype role, and the locusts were whoever trained them, the locust trainer, I guess, has to be noticed here. I did appreciate your factoids from the last round about the producer of this and all the things he had his fingers in, and that was actually pretty interesting. I rarely dig deep on the credits in any of these old movies that I was not alive for at all. I did notice the surname Gorn and thought that was pretty hilarious because, anything with Gorn in it's got to be at least kind of cool. So I'm just tripping over my tongue this evening. I don't have a whole lot to say. And my secret is if I'm feeling sleepy, I take a 10-minute power snooze during Skynet, and the radio is loud enough to keep me from falling completely asleep. And I wake up in about 15 minutes, and the radio kind of helps me, kind of stay awake and sleep at the same time. It's weird. It's hard to explain. But anyway, that's what I did this evening because I'm tired. So if I'm not making any sense or sounding particularly interesting, that's probably why. Back to net, MV5F.
All right, thank you, Virginia. And let's see, next up is Jay. BZ5BZW. Jay, what do you think of characterization and acting in our mind film?
This is KG5BZW. And first thing I wanted to say is, yeah, I know exactly what MV5F is saying about staying awake, but kind of almost sleeping, but not quite. It's a very almost meditative kind of thing that you can get into here. Although sometimes I fail and I just totally. But anyway, I don't know. Like that's kind of what I wanted to say about plot and about the one kind of sad thing that was, I felt more sad for, it was sad, is that they added it kind of for a sentence in the film, but that aspect of the whole, I don't know, how you can laugh with a person or laugh at a person. Well, with a film, you can be sad with the film, but you kind of feel sad at the film. But honestly, it's just, I don't know. It's the token. A token of extra character that, of course, it's token extra character. Token black ghost, token the table, whatever. Of course, they always die or something. That just seems. I know we're looking at the past and say a lot, but anyway, honestly, I of all the characters, I did like the Locust, how they, whatever they did to kind of look menacing and, good blame, good photography or whatnot on that. Granted, it's a long time since I used to think I wanted to grow up and be a entomologist. Not because of films like this or anything, just I thought bugs are cool. But long time since I looked at the behavioral aspects of locusts or whatever, or any critters in the block. Actually, 20 years in regards to that kind of thing. But well, whatever they did, let's just say whatever they did to keep them active and kind of look like they're gonna chase you and eat you down, even though that it's your fault. The photography it was what it was. I thought that was pretty good. They probably couldn't have made the buildings look terribly realistic if they had scale models. Like, I'm guessing that's why they had it done with the photographs or whatever. The buildings and them crawling it up. It was pretty obvious. I know this is kind of like, we're not talking about characters in space anymore. But yeah, I don't know. Other than that, it's already been covered, so I'll head to the next person, KT5VW.
All right, thank you, Jay. Next up is Bill, W5BLT. Bill, your thoughts on characterization in our mindset from KT5VW.
Well, I think my favorite characters were the grasshoppers themselves. These locusts were quite tempting to behold. As big as a bus, and even with my hearing impairment, I could still hear them. They were that loud, and so there was no problem knowing where they were at, and you could always tell, and they drowned out the military guys. So they were probably my favorite characters. Of course, they were marching on Chicago. I grew up in the Midwest, and I was from Indiana, and people from Chicago, and we had good banter back and forth. And and of course, grew up listening to Chicago radio, and just the fact that Chicago was saved. I really liked the Peter Graves character, and Peggy Castle was Audrey Ames. The most touching part of the movie is when they were trying to get her out, and she said, "No, I'm going to stay," and just such bravery, that she showed. Was pretty sad for Frank. I think he was the character that was deaf mute from the radiation. To get chomped like that by the grasshoppers was disappointing. But I liked his character, and just the fact that he did not quit. When he got the radiation poisoning, he stayed with his job, and I just thought that showed commitment that so often is maybe lacking in the job market now. And so he. But anyway, all right. No, I know I'm crazy, and my family thinks I'm crazy too. But I just love these old movies. That's what I got back in that control. W5 field.
All right, thank you, Bill. And you're not alone. I like these stupid movies too. They're a lot of fun to watch. And we early on we did a whole bunch of them, and then we kind of went through them all, and so we moved on to other movies. But every once in a while I would sneak one in. And I'll be honest, I don't recall us watching this one before, so some of the stock footage like we talked about, yes. But this one, no, I don't think so. And maybe because the title itself is kind of like, they have found it in the list, and wow, must be one of those, I don't know, dramatic things that was science fiction, or sort of fiction. So it got overlooked through the years. Okay, next is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, your thoughts on characterization and acting for our fine film, beginning with the S from 19...
KB9SOK. Yeah, I agree with what everybody said. The acting was just okay for what it was. I agree. Best actors were probably the single locus that they had to say, film crawling over the... It took a lot of work to get the color back. I'll give them the most credit. Peter did fine. The worst acting was probably the there. It did come to mind, and I didn't really think of it when I watched the movie. When you were talking about it occurred to me that, well, why didn't the other bugs grow to supersize? It was just locust. He named off like 5 different insects that they were... that they would have been more creative with the movie and had multiple animals, I guess. But just leaving it for a potential sequel. I don't know. Oh, and the other thing I kind of forgot during the plot was funny was when they get the biggest and fastest boat, and then they show little tiny boats. Probably be lucky if you can survive Lake Michigan, and that's what they used to put their... Not much to add to this round. Back to that. KB9, that's okay.
Thank you, Sean. See here. Ron is there. I'm going to skip Ron for now because, well, get to see the film. He's probably gone anyway. But I'll ask if anybody else is out there, anyone else out there who would like to check in. Has not done so already and would like to, please come to the call now.
Kilo Juliet 5 Echo Uniform Victor. This is Bob in Uptown.
And Ron has a comment.
KJ 5 EUV.
Oh, I'm going to get in trouble with Ron, so, but I will check in Bob, and then I'll go back to Ron. KG5EUV. Bob, I'll be back to you in a minute. Ron did check in, and I didn't call on him because I thought maybe he had disappeared, but he's there, and he has a comment, but I'll be back to you. N5SQA. Ron, go ahead.
Somebody was talking about, remember, I haven't seen the movie, but apparently some handicapped person got killed off without much explanation. Got to realize in these older films that person, the actor, may have just been a friend of the producer who promised him a part and got him in for a on me again. I will not have any more thoughts tonight. Thank you. N5SQA.
Okay, well, no, I didn't mean to call you out. But, okay. The guy's name was Hilton Socher. His name was born in December of 1935 in Chicago, Illinois. He was in a movie called Summer Love and Navy Log, 1958, 55, respectively, and then beginning of the end in 1957. But it's very sparse, and there's not a lot of information about him. He was deaf mute in the film, so he didn't have any lines. But yeah, he died a horrible death. One of the first ones, I think. Okay, Bob, KG5EUV. Bob, this, I think, is the first time you checked in on our net. We're talking about movies late night because it's the only time suitable for family members would hate us if you start talking about these things here normal. hours, but our movie is beginning of the end. Did you happen to see that particular film, or do you have any comments about what you've heard so far from KG5 Ice Cast?
Yes, I have seen it before, and then when earlier today, it's on the net, and I heard the movie of the night, I went back and did a fast speed YouTube refresh on it, and I love The Locust, and I love Peter Graves. So it was a fun movie. It reminds me of so many movies like it. But just the only two comments that I have that maybe are a little different is one is in Star Trek, species 8472 is the most dangerous species of all time, even more dangerous than the Borg. And they kind of reminded me of the locust, kind of an insectoid species. And then the last comment I have is that in 1973, I think it was, I went to the Boy Scout Jamboree in Idaho, and no joke, they handed us all little capsules with red dots on them that had been irradiated with uranium, and they told us all to go home and plant them and to let us know if any mutated plants came up. So the whole fun and games of radiation has been around a long time. So I enjoyed the movie, and thank you for letting me participate tonight. And back to net KJ5EUV.
Well, thank you, Bob, for checking in. We definitely invite you back every week. So let me ask you this. Did you grow any large tomatoes?
No, I didn't. I did put them in a paper cup with soil and watered them, and nothing came up, which I was greatly disappointed because I did expect giant tomatoes to pop up or something even more spectacular, but nothing happened. So apparently just putting plutonium exposure to plant seeds does not automatically create giant tomatoes. I'm very disappointed. KJ5EUV.
Yeah, I can imagine. It probably falls into that same category as the sea monkeys that turned out to be shrimp. But, yeah, oh well. You can't have everything, especially with your atomic bombs and your movies. But maybe one day. Hey, we got Godzilla -1, don't so it's everything old is new again. Maybe that'll bring up ecological or nuclear progression, evolution, that sort of thing, whatever you want to call it. Okay, well, let's see here. We are now... We'll go to special effects. I think Tony is gone, but I'll ask. NP5PM, Tony, you still there? Do you want to talk about special effects if you are? All right, he headed to bed. He said he was going to do that. N5BB, Bill, special effects. Go ahead.
This is Inside BB. Grumble, grumble, grumble. That's right. That's my comment. Was grumble, grumble, grumble. I already mentioned before the insects crawling on a piece of paper, two-dimensional piece of paper, and the whole thing was done pretty poorly. I mean, yeah, you did get the idea there were giant insects, but it wasn't realistic. They were really too big, It would have been, if they were as big as a VW Bug or something, that would have been okay. But they were, well, it's hard to see exactly how big they were. They must have been larger than a bus or something, at least as big as a bus, and that's just too big. Where'd all those nutrients come to grow all those insects? I mean, wow, that's a lot of, that took a lot of crops or something. Think about that, Anyway, Back in the 60s, my brother bought mail order a packet of irradiated flower seeds. I can't remember marigolds. I can't remember what. And he planted them, but I don't remember any grotesque things coming up. You know, they said that anything could happen. The plants could be weird in some fashion. And you could buy them. You could buy little packets of irradiated seeds, a mail order. What else? I guess not much. Special effects. They had radios. Like I say, the lady reporter had the radio, the car telephone, which was cool, with no antenna. The Army had their radios, and Peter Graves had his radio. And that looked like one of the old maybe Gonset amateur radio things of the middle 50s, early to middle 50s. So I think it could have even been an amateur radio piece of equipment they stuck in there when he was up in that the building downtown. So they had radios. That was cool. Radio technology was still a little bit, you know, it's hot new technology back then in the 50s, early 50s. Radio and TV. TV was brand new, and radio was still, you know, developing and kind of new to people. I guess that's all. They didn't have any computers, I don't believe, in this. That was too cutting edge. N5BB.
Well, thank you, Bill, and pointing out the radio is very good. I thought it was interesting. Radio set sitting on the table as they're talking in the back of the plane, and they're talking just to the pilot. I mean, all you have to do is walk up front and use the radio. I thought that was interesting. But I thought I'd mention that out of turn because I probably would have forgotten by the time I got to Phil. Next, Brenda, WB50. Brenda, special effects or anything you want to add about our fine films. Go ahead.
This is WB50ZL. Well, I think that Carphone was a fraud. All you saw was the receiver, which, you know, you could get off a regular phone. I didn't see what it was sitting on. You know, I remember the old big bricks that you had to put on your shoulder because they were so big. And the first cell phone we had, I guess, was in the early 90s, maybe, and it didn't look anything like that. So I just think that's a fake. And the photographer, she was using her flash bulbs in the daylight. I didn't get that part, and they just kind of popped out. I don't remember that either. You had to push a button to pop them out. Oh well. Special effects, yeah. It doesn't take much just to take a bug and film it way up close and then insert it into your movie. Not a lot of technical prowess there, or not a lot of imagination. And they they just made them big. They didn't alter them. I would think anything that's irradiated might be, you know, have a third eye or some strange spots or something, and not just big. I don't understand why radiation makes something big, but that's kind of a trope you saw in a lot of these old movies. That's the only thing they could figure out to do with them. And so, but, you know, it is low budget, so we expect. All right, I think that's all I have. I'll send it back. WB50ZL.
Okie dokie. Well, we'll move down the list. We got Virginia, NP5F. Virginia, your thoughts on special effects or anything else we may not have covered?
Okay, well, I think the special effects made this was the funnest aspect of it because I laughed every single time any kind of quote-unquote special effects were on the screen. And then I remembered that movie we watched a few weeks ago about the guys who kind of got sucked up into the science fiction universe when they went to see the movie, and they were chased by a giant iguana. Whenever there needs to be a dinosaur or a lizard, it's always an iguana. And then also the Three Stooges go to space. The giant, I think it was a tarantula that chased them. And I always love when they take like regular bugs and make them big, and they don't have any proper like shadows or anything, and they're just kind of rear projected in or whatever, I love it. It made me laugh so hard. That was my favorite thing about the movie was the special effects. And then Bill said something about the size of them, and the scale was definitely an issue, but I think they mentioned at some point that it took them a while to get that big. They had to eat enough to grow that large, and there were different sizes of them, and they were trying to find one that was small enough that they could catch it. But I did like the idea that he said about them being the size of Volkswagen Beetles, and then I thought it would be fun if there was a movie about giant beetles, and they were all like the size of Volkswagen Beetles, and maybe they could even like pretend they were Volkswagen Beetles, and maybe no one would even know they were actual giant beetles. So I thought that might be kind of funny. And I thought I would add a new feature that I would like to try to add to my round 3 every week, which is what is the connection that this movie has to 2001: A Space Odyssey? So at the very beginning, they were talking about the police. They were calling the police in Urbana, Illinois, which is the birthplace of HAL 9000, on January 12th, 1992, or 1997, depending on whether it's the movie or the book. I love HAL. I've been obsessed with HAL since I was 12, and HAL is that dulcet-toned fellow who announces the net by saying he's completely operational and all his circuits are functioning perfectly every Saturday night at 10:30. So I always love hearing HAL. Anyway, that's my new feature, how this movie is connected to 2001. So anyway, that's it. I had fun watching this. It gave me a laugh, and it was predictable, but cheesy special effects, that was the best thing about it. NV5F.
How the particular movie ended up relationship to 2001. I'll buy into that. Let's see how that all goes. All right, Jay, KG5PZWJ. We're talking special effects or anything we may have missed. Tell us what you think.
This is KG5BW. And one quick note, you said that the deaf mute guy had no lines. Well, that's not true. He had lines. He just used sign language to give his lines. Now, I can't read sign language, but I thought that was kind of cool. I mean, it looked like sign language I've seen before, so I don't think, there's been that one case. I want to say recent, and relatively speaking, it is recent, but it's not really recent, where there is that just kind of made up language for the news conferences, blah, blah. I'm saying there are people that would, obviously, because I haven't, but no, that is just, I'm pretty sure. Anyway. It just, considering how much made up stuff, like the phone being used as for all that, those conversations, including in the, like, they used to leave the B-36 out of that phone instead of, you know, for proper avionic headphones and whatnot. I just had a, you know, a fake mic or whatever, phone receiver or something. Just anyway. The other thing I really wanted to say was I did enjoy the special effects are cheesy, but I did think the Foley work to capture the numbers of the locusts. I thought that was pretty well done because they grabbed the actual kind of terrifying aspect. That's probably the only real terrifying aspect of the movie is the sounds the locusts make. So this were just way too cheesy. No, that was actually, you know, kind of haunting. So this film, whatever, you know, whatever you want. Credit to them. Other than that, I don't got anything. KG5 BCW, back to net.
Easy special effects. 20% easier now. Bill, W5DLT, your final thoughts from KG5ITX.
Well, you know, I kid about the locust and how well done that was. They were a little bit loud, so it was kind of hard to hear the military stuff going on once they started all that chatter stuff. The special effects, I was reading some things online in all seriousness just about the visual stuff, and yes, it was hokey. I'm being serious now. But the other thing, too, you know, if these things were climbing buildings, you'd think there'd be a lot more damage because they had to weigh a lot, I would think. And then, of course, you know, the music and everything, I thought it was okay. I mean, it was typical for that era and these types of movies. So, you know, not much, I suppose, on the way of that, but I thought they could crank down the insect chatter just a tad so we could hear, you know, the dialogue in some of those scenes. I always thought the radio stuff was cool. I remember reading about the police beginning to use radios back in I think it was the 40s and 50s, maybe even a little earlier. And so I thought that technology was kind of cool as well, and always enjoyed reading when there wasn't really a set standard on that. So for the radio frequencies and all those things, and just how everything got adopted and continues to advance. So I always like reading about that stuff. But yeah, the insects could have been toned down. W5BLT, back to net control.
Thank you, Bill. And yeah, that's the most terrifying part. I agree. Sean, KG9SOK. Sean, your parting shot. Special effects, anything you want to talk about? Go ahead.
KV9SOK. Yeah, I agree with everybody on this as well. The special effects were almost comical at that time. Especially every time they showed the grasshoppers come over the horizon. You know, these giant grasshoppers, you couldn't skim on what you could. What they showed. I think one of the funniest things, though, is when they supposed they had this grasshopper locked up in that lab. It's up on that upper floor of the building. I'm like, well, how'd they get it up there? You know, then they built this cage in record time to cage it in. Them showing it being that close to it is so comical. You can, I got chuckles out of the real facts, but yeah, they definitely weren't CG back then. For sure. not a lot else to add. Yeah, I agree. I do agree with Bill that the screeching was getting annoying from above. I did think that they had to. I know there was a point they were kind of making neighboring the theater. But yeah, it got hard to hear sometimes during that part. Enjoyed the net as always. Quite the turnout tonight. Pretty awesome. So looking forward to the next one. Back to net. KB9, that's okay.
Yeah, I'm very pleased with the turnout tonight too. Nice return. Good movie to talk about. Good movie, but fun to talk about. Ron, N5SQA. Ron, I'll let you, I know you haven't seen the film, but any final comments from you from KG5ITX? See, now that's expecting, but he was there last time. Okay, Bob, KJ5UV. Bob, you got any final parting comments for us? Go ahead, KG5ITX.
Well, just a couple of things. One is, this was 66 years ago, I think, this movie came out. So the special effects are not bad, considering all they could work with was cameras. And so I think that they did a respectable job with all of that. And I'm going to say something that probably every single person knows, including the one person who I apologize I didn't get their call sign, who mentioned their love for 2001 Space Odyssey. But just in case they don't know it, which they probably do, HAL, H-A-L, is IBM offset by 1. So that was the people that wrote it actually just took IBM and subtracted 1 character from that. So anyway, enjoyed it tonight, enjoyed the whole thing, and look forward to participating more in the future. Back to net, KJ5EUV.
Very good. Thank you, Bob. And yeah, that's one of the common lore about 2001. There is, I will say this, I going by memory, so it's probably not going to be very helpful. There is a 7 or 8 part series about 2001 Space Odyssey, talking about the special effects, how they were done, and all of that, as well as sort of the backstory as to how it got written. It's well done. It's done by a guy who's an amateur. He's not, I think he's in the business per se, but just aficionado film. It's just taken from many different sources. Talked about the film at great length. It's really good. If I can find it, I'll look it up and I'll post it on the Astro Movie site. I think you'll like it. I certainly do. But it talks all about that, and a lot of the trivial things too, which is pretty cool. Okay, let me see here. I guess it's my turn. The special effects, one of the things that I thought was interesting, of course, their photographs with the grasshoppers on top, or overlay shots that they did, not very convincingly, where you could actually see through the grasshoppers almost as they go across the sky screen. We had sleight of hand, of course, where we never saw anybody die because that would require special effects that they did not have. But overall, it was still entertaining. I think one of the funniest parts is that when they had shots where the insects walked between buildings and bridges and other things, literally they took a photograph and cut it out so that then you had holes in, say, a banister or trees or something. They would cut out the outline of a tree or photograph of a tree, put that in front, and then let the grasshopper walk behind it. I mean, it was that low tech, but it was absolutely hilarious watching it. So I thought it was quite interesting. Okay, one final thing. Anybody else have anything before we close it down? Before I tell you what next week's movie is coming from.
NV5F.
N5BB.
we've got Virginia and V5F, and then Bill after that. Virginia, you're first.
W5FC.
Okay, just a parting shot on Hal's acronym. It's pretty well documented that they deny the IBM thing. They say it stands for heuristically programmed algorithmic computer, but I've also recently unearthed a comment about how Arthur C. Clarke was just talking to Stanley Kubrick one day, and they'd gone through several iterations of Hal's character, and one day Stanley said, you know, I think I want to name him Hal. And then Arthur C. Clarke was like, okay, and now we have to figure out what Hal stands for. So maybe that was why Stanley Kubrick wanted to name him Hal. So that is a debate that's been roaring since 1968, and I'm fine with either explanation. Anyway, that's cool. Thanks for firing in with the Hal fun fact. Thanks, Tom, for running the net. Good night, everyone. NV5F.
All right, thank you, Virginia. I did find the while you were talking about the 2001, it's called How Kubrick Made 2001: A Space Odyssey. The multi-part series. Just look for it on YouTube. How Kubrick Made 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's really well done. Bill, N5BB, you get the final comment. Go ahead.
Thank you, Tom. N5BB. Just a parting comment about the lady journalist with her car phone. No, that was very well-established technology by 1957. The Motorola, in conjunction with Illinois Bell, the Bell system, introduced the first mobile public phones that could be connected into the telephone network in October of 1946, a full decade before this movie came out. And of course, where was it? Illinois, Chicago, because that's the area where Motorola was founded and had their facilities up in Schaumburg. So all those things were well established a decade before this movie. And in the late 50s and the early to mid 60s, all of the detectives on all the TV shows, they had mobile radio phones. So Paul Drake had one, and Mannix had one, and I think Cannon had one, but they all had mobile telephones. They didn't just go look for a telephone booth. Their time was more important than that. They could talk while they were driving with their mobile telephone. And back then, back in the 50s and very early 60s, it wasn't automatic. It was manual. So essentially, you raised the operator, and the operator connected you through. And initially, I think in Chicago, they had 3 frequency channels. So only 3 people could be talking at once. Anyway, enough of that old technology stuff, but it was fun to see radios in 1957. N5BB. Good night.
Okie dokie. Well, thank you, Bill. I was not aware of that early radio, telephone part. Pretty cool. Okay, next week's movie, you all been waiting. This one is a art house type film, low budget, called Point B. This one is, it says 4 friends, graduate students from physics department for university discovered the heat energy machine actually works with true rudimentary teleportation device. We all do that. Through experimentation and just some misuse, the device, it is quickly discovered the mission pulled and consequences. That's next week's movie, Point B. I'll go ahead and send it to all of you. You can find it at the Facebook page under Afterglow Movie, the words Afterglow Movie. or send me an email, 85IK@yahoo.com, if you're not already subscribed or already getting email notifications. So with that, I'm going to say 7-3. I'm going to watch a little bit of Lost in Space and go to bed. Thank you all. That was a nice, lively discussion. It was a lot of fun. See you next week. This is KC5.